Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. It is great to see everybody again. Now, I just want to start and say, hasn't it been really interesting to see that the world for the last few weeks has finally been paying attention to what's been happening. And of course, a lot of that is because they think there's a bit of a story, but it's been such a nice reminder and just a kind of great to show the world that actually the issue in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine is important. And it's been, I think, really important for that exposure to be happening. And even though that's dying down now, it's incredible news because massive organizations have been to the front line in Ukraine. And when I went out there, none of them had been there for years. And I was banging on their doors, emailing them, trying to give them my footage, and nobody was interested. And they've actually made the trip all the way out there themselves. So it's really good exposure for the world. And even though it is looking like it's dying down, I'm hoping it will help boost the profile of this war. The subscribers on this channel, I really probably don't need to explain this to you. Even though we're so small in numbers, you follow it for a reason. You want to know what's happening in the world, in Donbass, and what's happening with the war in Ukraine. For so many people who have just learnt about this, millions of people, I imagine, across the globe, they're now thinking this is over. So I really want to reiterate the point that this war is not over. Just because Russia has moved its troops away from the border, it's still giving almost unlimited supply of men, munitions, and money to these self-declared republics, and thus continuing the war in Donbass, which is actually almost reaching a record number of casualties this year. It's incredibly high and almost 3 times as many as last year. So that is really worrying, and I think it's a direct result because of these political games that Russia has been playing. And I actually have some footage that I'm going to share with you that was sent to me a few days ago about what's happening on the front line. It was shot at night time, so the footage doesn't have any visual to it, but you'll be able to hear what's happening over there right now. So, for those in any doubt, anyone who still thinks this is a tiny civil war, it's just a small group of rebels in the east, take a listen to that, because that was some serious heavy mortar fire. It's causing a lot of damage, not only damage to people, injuries and fatalities, it's ripping up a lot of trenches and infrastructure, and even amongst some civilians, some injuries. It's doing a lot of damage in Donbass. And if you have a look at this, we can actually take a quick look at what type of mortar that is. So it is a 152 millimeter. This was a Soviet self-propelled armored artillery, and it has seen action everywhere. As you can see, it's got a massive turret. And if we look on the Wikipedia on this, we can see where it has been used by. It's been in service since 1971, and there we are, right in Donbass. And actually, this is something that is used on both sides because when the Soviet Union fell, there was a lot of these left over in Ukraine. But there's not the amount that was in Ukraine, especially in the east, that is there now. So it's quite clear that Russia has been bringing them in, and Russia by far are the biggest proprietor of this type of weaponry. So let's have a look at what kind of manpower and vehicles were moving to Ukraine's border over the last few weeks, so we get a sense of the grand total of what the official Russian army was putting basically upon Ukraine's doorstep. So they had over 100,000 troops, 1,300 tanks, 1,300 pieces of artillery, and 3,700 drones, who are becoming more and more common in the conflict. And around the Azov Sea, they amassed some ships to take their flotilla there up to a grand total of 52, while they moved 15 landing craft into the Azov Sea, which is something they're basically in complete control of at the moment. If you saw in my last video, it was about them controlling the Kerch Strait and how they're basically not allowing any military vessels in or out of the Azov Sea. So an amphibious assault by Russia there would be incredibly easy on the actual water because there's no navy there to oppose them. Now, if we look at Russia's goal, I mean, we did a video about this before talking about what it was Putin wanted, so I don't want to revisit that too much. But for him, this military exercise has been rather successful. He's managed to shake a stick at the West, if you will. He's really pushed Biden's button, the new US president, and he's basically putting pressure on Ukraine to come to a peace agreement more favorable to his terms, because he's showing what he can do. And let's think of the logistical side of this, because I mean, I know a lot of you, because you're emailing me a lot or in the military, you know what a logistical fucking nightmare it is to be involved in that type of thing. 100,000 troops don't just appear somewhere one day. That takes so much planning and so much preparation, and there's a reason it took weeks and weeks for this type of manpower and this type of equipment to build up. And the fear is, next time, it's not going to take weeks and weeks. It might just take a week because they've done it before. They know how to do it. They've almost got an instruction manual which they've just made for themselves, and they've built up some bases. There's been proof of infrastructure being built up. We can now host 100,000 troops comfortably in these conditions. So that's a really, really good thing for Putin, and he has created something which could be a leap pad for a further attack because he's already done the groundwork on this. Now, I know a lot of you will think that I'm kind of overselling this because when all this was happening, I was one of the people that was saying that I don't think it would lead to anything. I thought the troops would back off. And I did think that at the time, but that doesn't mean that I don't think nothing ever will happen. Things are now in motion, and I think it will form some form of powder keg. I mean, we've got Russia improving its infrastructure in the region. We've got Turkey accelerating Ukraine's NATO boost. We've got the war, which is dragging on and it's becoming a bit more of a financial burden to Putin. We've got almost 500,000 Russian passports in Donbass. All of these things are starting to tick and to show, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did see some military action within a few years. I just don't think it's going to happen yet, but of course, it's something we're definitely going to keep our eye on this channel. Thanks for dropping by. All the usual, please do like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.